There's our lady.
Hey, Monique.
Got to meet your husband the other day. Nice guy.
I love him. He told me that you guys met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hey,
Hello.
Tiffany.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good, good. Are you on a phone or on a computer? Or?
Yes, I'm on a laptop.
Ah, okay. Good.
Thank you for sending the information. I really appreciate it.
Oh, great, great. Yeah, I'm glad you could join us. And hope we'll see a lot more of you.
Tiffany,
Absolutely.
what's your phone number?
It is 436-3090.
Okay, so that's 10 Katy Street. And your email address?
T Owens, OWENS, @swanonline.org.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing Swan emerge from its ashes because we haven't had much participation from anybody from there for quite a while. How you guys doing anyways?
Oh, we're doing great. Thanks.
Great.
We are definitely resurrecting. The core programs have been functioning at full capacity for some time now. So it's rebranding time and just being sure that people are receiving the correct information related to the programs that we have there. I think there's definitely been a disconnect and not enough of a social media presence. And I know that that's what people are accustomed to right now. And so we're definitely bridging that gap so that everyone's aware that the programs are fully functional, have been, and we're here ready to assist whenever people need us. So thank you so much for reaching out.
Yeah, well, I sit on the community engagement team from the Wilson Foundation Academy. And
Okay.
have you folks been in touch with them at all, or? Oh.
We have not. We're reaching out soon, though. We have a project that's coming up this summer related to a senior garden right next to the facility, the green space there. And we want to engage some students and have them interact and work with our senior program. That's something that we are actually getting the foundation set now, so that come summer, we'll be able to pull in some of our young people and get them engaged with the center again on 10 Katy Street.
Great, great.
Yes.
Yeah, well, sometime if you, get a chance to get re-involved with the community engagement team, we'd love to have you.
Okay, I looked at, if you don't mind, I'm shooting that information over. We're actually also bringing some new team members aboard that I'm getting ramped up and trained, but we'll definitely be able to have some representation.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to always have a lot of, involvement of the Swan with the school and the neighborhood there. When I started with the Southwest Common Council, we used to have them at Swan at the school when you guys are located there. Good. Well, nice to see you. And
very glad to be a part of the meeting this evening.
yeah, where I noticed a little earlier, did you, I don't know if you were copied in on, the mayor sent another note to Brittany asking her what the latest was on what they were doing for the school issue there. I was hoping we'd see something come our way before the meeting, but as Monique knows, because she was at the meeting we had with the mayor, we got together on the 14th of January, I think it was, with Mayor Lovely Warren and one or two of the folks from the city hall to talk about local busing, because one of the things that we see as a big problem in Rochester is that the fact that they have this 1.5 mile busing requirement to be able to get reimbursement means that everybody puts their child on a bus that goes 1.5 miles or more away, because that's the only way they can be certain of getting them on a bus. And sometimes that's because they really are trying to get them to a school that has a specific program that they would benefit from, or maybe the school is right next to grandma's house and that makes it convenient for the child to get out of school and go spend the afternoon with grandma. But in most cases, you know, they don't get the school that they're trying for if they've got a specific high quality school they're shooting for. And it just ends up being a lot of time on the bus for no particular advantage. So we would like to see it be that that we have universal busing, or anybody can choose to take a bus to go to the school of their choice, so that we don't have this busing kids all over the place just to get them on a bus. For most parents, that's important for safety's sake. You know, I remember where I used to live on Seneca Parkway, and my daughter was walking over to school 7, and that was about 0.7 miles or so. And I remember walking with her, showing her the way there, and it was a nice neighborhood then. Most of the houses were owner occupied. Kodak was doing very well and pumping loads of money into the community. Today, I think twice about walking the distance myself. And it's just riddled with a lot of drugs, and it's a completely different area. So I can understand, you know, places that we thought were good when we were younger in Rochester have changed in many cases. So anyways, we got together with the mayor, and we also had Katerina Leone-Mannino, who is the principal at school 17. Hey, Lintori. And as we discussed things back and forth, getting assistance for busing, if you could prove that there was a need for busing for safety's sake, came up, and the mayor hit on the idea of let's push for that it would be the equitable thing to do to make sure that people who need to have a bus to get to the nearby school, but can't right now because we have to maintain this 1.5 mile requirement, that might be something that could be worked around by pointing to the fact that this is inequitable, because in the counties, in the various townships around Rochester, Pittsford or whatever, you could send every child in the school to, be bused, whether they are a 1/2 mile or 500 feet or whatever. And you just have to pass some, a new tax so that you can cover the cost of that. The parents would still be required to pay for it locally, but it wouldn't be an impossibility for them. In Rochester, if you wanted to do that, you can't, because you can't raise taxes for the schools. It's a different formula that they've had since day one, or at least quite a while, where the state and the city, pay most of the cost for schools, and there is no tax levy for covering that. So there was a fair bit of excitement, because certainly Monique, who is principal of school 19, has would benefit from being able to have local busing, so she gets more students from her school surroundings, and that would get more parent involvement in the school. Because the downside of this busing kids across town is, in most cases, parents can't get to the school when they need to, because one, sometimes they don't even know where the school is the kid is being bused to. They may know some things about the school, but it's somewhere on the other side. They in many cases don't have a spare car to hop into to drive across town to go to a school meeting. So it means that the schools have less parent involvement that they might otherwise. So we hope that we'll be able to, one of these days, hear that they've succeeded. I emailed the mayor a couple of days ago and heard right away that she had met with the superintendent, and then they had discussed the idea of using the equitability tool for trying to force the state to do the right thing, and that hopefully they would have there's Katerina.
Hello, John.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. They told me it was about Alicia Evans told me she couldn't be at the meeting, but wanted me to join to see any updates and share any updates regarding transportation. So here I am whenever you're ready.
We were just talking about it. Now I heard that maybe there was a problem, that the superintendent was saying don't expect different treatment for 17 as far as local busing goes. Is that what?
That has never been said to me proper, but I imagine that could very possibly have been said. There was some discussion yesterday at the board meeting because I presented So I've unpacked this child safety zone thing a little bit because I'm taking a Harvard policy class,
Mm-hmm.
and this is my project.
Wow.
So I've dissected it from every political science standpoint, technical standpoint. I'm on week 5. By week 6, it'll be total complete. Technical analysis and organizational implementability. It was raised last night at the Finance Committee by Commissioner Amy Malloy, advocating that we really do take a deep look at this. And the board became very upset because they felt that it was bypassing the process of all of the bureaucracy and reasons. However, we have done we have a racial equity community engagement team. And Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives has taken Erica Mock, their vice president, has taken this on as her charge. So she presented it during the state level Senate budget hearing. We have a meeting with Demond Brooks coming up. I'm trying to get on Jeremy Cooney's calendar. Republican Senator Gallivan reached out. So essentially, next steps are that a bill needs to be crafted to allow for legislative changes to the designation of child safety zones.
Mm-hmm.
So that 3635B, Ed Law 3635B could be amended to include areas over 125,000. So the mayor, as you were aware, said she was committed to take it on, presented it to the superintendent. There's this very clear party line right now that says we need to be sure we're equitable, but equitable actually means giving people what they need to kind of level the playing field versus equal, but it's being used as kind of like, we got to do the same thing across the board. So that's kind of where things are at. I've got 58%, I've got good data. I'm going to share with you the presentation. 58% of my kids from the neighborhood.
Oh,
So that's 386 kids without buses.
wow.
So I invited the chief of operations to come over and help me analyze my traffic pattern, because where are 300, if all the kids were here right now, where would 386 kids get dropped off, picked up, all of that. So hoping we'll make some progress.
I heard back from the mayor that she had gotten together with superintendent based on the discussion that we had with her about using equity as a tool for trying to force finally getting local busing, and that the superintendent agreed with her that this was a worthwhile thing to pursue, considering that everything else that's been tried for umpteen years hasn't worked. This sounded interesting. So I'm hoping that we'll hear more. She's got her city hall staff working on coming up with all the numbers, because I think they're going to have to look at it from the standpoint of how many roads do people have to cross, and what are the dangers for the kids if they walk from their home to the school. So we'll see. She sent another note to Brittany today asking her how's so-and-so doing on the study, and Brittany hadn't gotten back to me anyways. So hopefully we'll hear something positive on that, because it would certainly be nice to finally start making some progress. And I'd like to see it so that all the schools, Monique at school 19 or wherever we are, that they can make use of the same mechanism to get local busing for their community school.
Right. And certainly, the budget from last year had a $91 million set aside for transportation. Now, a lot of that is aidable, but there's over 1,000 bus routes. So if you just think about the technicalities of if all, let's just look at school 17. If all 386 of those children chose schools that were farther away than 1.5 miles, they'd also need to be bused.
Mhm.
And truly right now with COVID, the spacing on the busing, the number of drivers, the number of vehicles, all of that would make it really hard to implement with social distancing. So, you know, I think what we're looking at has to be multi-pronged. It's a change in legislation, but it also needs to be a change in enrollment and the way that we recruit students for schools. And once transportation is removed as an obstacle to neighborhood school enrollment, I think you'll start to see neighborhood patterns mirror those at 17, where more families will choose schools closer to home and be more engaged in school, and school will be more accessible, especially when transportation isn't factored into that decision.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, we've got kind of a 6 months or 8 months window where things are so scrambled up with COVID that if you had the ability to get all kids on a bus, the requirements for spacing make it impractical. But once they're all back to attending the school in person, I think that's when we hopefully have the ability to get local busing in place. And once you have a
Yeah,
child,
certainly changing a piece of legislation will take a long time. So I think that there, as I said, it needs to be multi-pronged, and we can also start looking at, you know, some creative ways to bring about safe transport to and from school. Maybe it's things like walking school buses, or increasing neighborhood patrols, or hiring parents to walk a walking school bus of kids to and from school. But yeah, I think even if we looked at it, School 17 had the resolution to create that pilot back in 2017. That's how we reached this high level of neighborhood enrollment. And so I think if we can look at that data and look at the cost analysis and possibly look at School 19 as an additional pilot, the district would be well served improving potential efficiencies and increasing the quality of service and increasing parental engagement.
And we are totally on board.
Yeah, this would be great for all the schools in the area to see more local participation and getting, you know, we've been pushing to get local busing, but only from the standpoint that you have to be able to offer that, to get parents to agree to send their child to the local school. Once you've got children going to their enough children going to their local schools, then you can start looking at the walking school bus and have enough student density to make it practical to organize that. Because every time they've tried it in recent years, I know that we tried that a few years ago over at 19, and they've tried it over at 10, and as far as I know, it never really got very far. So great.
Now, John, I don't recall if I sent you the summary, but I will forward it again, where we included the GIS data for the School 17 enrollees. We did a map overlay with violent crimes within the past 60 days and sex offenders, level 2 and 3 sex offenders, as well as student residents. And that map speaks volumes. I think we were working on it. And I also have a summary of all of the routing limits within other districts in Monroe County. And every other district, barring the village of East Rochester, has lower busing limits. And that's because East Rochester doesn't have buses except for students with disabilities overall. So
Great. Yeah, I don't recall if I've seen a lot of studies lately, but I don't recall seeing that one.
I will forward it to you so that you can share with the team.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I'll just stay on if there's questions or anything else you need.
Great. Thank you very much, Katerina. Okay, anything else on busing that anybody has questions on, or how many people have kids, either kids or grandkids in schools right now that year? There's one. Yay. Two. Okay. Yeah, it gets you a lot more involved with the schools when you've got some flesh and blood that are have skin in the game to either be bused to school or have to walk. And one of the things that we have to remember when we're talking about busing also is, even if you've got a school that is within, that's a mile and a half away, and you want to have your child go there, it can be a problem for the child's attendance that they're going, 3/4 or 1.5 miles away because they can't walk if they miss the bus. My son attended school 19, and we were still up on the northwest side then. And he was very prone to forget to get to the bus in time. Then I'd get a phone call, "Dad, could you drive me in?" And fortunately, I had a job that I could kind of quickly rush out and pick him up, drop him off, and be back at work. But if I hadn't had that, he wouldn't have made it through that first year because he missed so many days. And we have a lot of students that end up in exactly that situation. So it can be a real big issue as far as attendance goes, and how well the child does in school because of their attendance. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, anything else on that? Let me see, what else did I have?
While you're looking,
Yeah.
I want to connect Len Torrey and Tiffany. Tiffany Owens Len Torrey is the new executive director of SWAN. They're located down at 10 Katy Street. And Len Torrey Johnson is many things, but one of the things, many good things, but one of the things that she's working on is a generational engagement matters. And because of what you're proposing with students and adults working on the gardens at Montgomery Neighborhood Center, I thought you two might wanna. Len Torrey does a lot with gun violence, fighting gun violence, and also with the up on Cottage and South Plymouth Legacy Park Station is having a monument, an area that pays tribute to all the African Americans who have contributed to the Southwest. And of course, Willie would be in on that. So you two should say hi.
Hi, Tiffany. I'm glad she clarified that many things, because there are a whole slew of things, but want to make sure it's not the negative, Eleanor, in there.
Oh, I don't even know any negatives about you, Len Torrey.
I don't know. You ain't talking to the right. You're just not talking to the right people yet.
Well, I don't want to then.
Okay.
Hi, Len Torrey. Very nice to meet you.
You too. You too. I'm gonna put my phone number in the chat room, Tiffany.
Okay.
And Reverend Stewart's having a speaking engagement tonight, so I'm here for a moment, everybody, but I'll probably be leaving early. But I really do look forward to talking with you, Tiffany.
Yes, and I'm gonna drop you my number as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we'll be trying to end by 7 for sure, because there's a few programs going on this at 7 that some of us want to get to.
We need to let Cornell announce any programming? Or are you
Sure.
still looking?
Yeah, I'd love to just say hi and say a little bit about what we're doing. So I'm Sandy Bastido. I'm the senior nutritionist for the SNAP-Ed New York program. We have 6 educators, nutrition educators that are in Monroe County, 3 at CCE Monroe and 3 at FoodLink. We do programming throughout the city in school districts. So we can zoom in if you're virtual and provide nutrition education in phys ed classes, health classes, regular ed classrooms. We can also do in-person classes as well. And Katerina, I think we've worked with Leone-Mannino, our bilingual educator, has worked with School 17 before. But we're looking to get into other school districts as well. So if anybody has an interest, I can put my email and number in the chat. And you can also go to snapednewyork.org to find our program. We're the Northern Finger Lakes region program. But I'm interested in working with all the school districts in Monroe County. So, well, in the Rochester City School District. So if anybody has any interest, and I know that Tiffany, you're looking into gardening. So hopefully you reached out to CCE Monroe. Their Master Gardener program does a lot with community gardens, and they're a great resource. So,
Thank you.
yeah. We work with all ages from 1st grade to 12. We have several different curriculums that we can use. And everything we do is research and evidence-based.
Okay, let's see, has anybody not introduced themselves yet? Why don't we, Lee, why don't you introduce yourself and what school you're associated with? And
yes, I'm Lee Loomis. I'm the leader of a tutoring team that was established about 6 years ago at Dr. Walter Cooper Academy, formerly number 37 school back in the early 20th century, now number 10. We relocated for 2 years to the John Marshall campus on Ridgeway, while the building at 353 Congress Avenue underwent extensive renovation. The entire student body was moved back over the summer to Congress Avenue, to the renovated building. It's an amazing facility. Of course, the kids only just began coming back there 2 days a week, 2 weeks ago. And we, members of the tutoring team and the leadership of the Engineering Society, who sponsored the tutoring team, have been allowed into the school in groups of 6 to take a tour of the facility, and it's truly amazing. The next tour is day after tomorrow, this Friday at noon, and we get shown around the new facility. Some remarkable things that the engineers and architects have done that open opportunities for kids in the upper elementary grades. Cooper is a pre-K 6 school, but the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders will have and do have access to a maker space, which, if you're not familiar with it, is kind of like a working laboratory that allows children to have an opportunity to learn about trades and technology. It's kind of a STEM lab, science, engineering, technology, and mathematics, wherein kids can get a taste of what the career opportunities might be for them in the future, in heating, ventilating, air conditioning, auto mechanics, tool and die, plastics manufacturing, robotics, electronics, etc. It's just an amazing, and this is just one room. The classrooms and excuse me, for those of you who haven't visited a renovated school recently, are just remarkably up to date technologically, and excuse me, lend themselves quickly to rising above the challenges that teachers would normally face in old-fashioned classrooms. So I've got a couple openings for Friday's tour if anyone's interested. John, would you want to make room in your life for that?
What time is it start?
12 noon. Tour takes about 40-50 minutes.
Yeah, I've got to check. I've got a doctor's appointment then, but I'll try to make it. I'll get back to you.
Well, you come in the front door at a little ahead of noon, maybe 9:45 of.
Mhm.
They take your temperature, make sure that you can write your name, and you're good for the tour. So
The front door is that now on post?
well, you would think so from the way the place looks, but the reality is the main office and where you check in is still the older front door on Congress Avenue.
Okay.
The old face of the old building. That's where they have us come in. Eventually, when things are less pandemically hysterical, I'm assuming the entry on Post Avenue, which brings you into a kind of an atrium that's adjacent to the auditorium and gymnasium facility and the cafeteria, that'll eventually probably become a main entrance for extracurricular, parental related activities. But for now, anyway, the front door is still at on the Congress Avenue side of the building. You want to join us, Eleanor?
I'm thinking about it. I might be able to.
You used
12
to have
o'clock?
you used to have roots there. 12 o'clock.
Yes, I did. All three of my kids graduated from there.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I'll look forward to seeing John and Eleanor, and there's also
Okay.
an outside possibility if we can rearrange a previously scheduled meeting, if Dr. Cooper might be there too.
Great. Okay, yeah, I'd love to see that because it's been a long time slugging away for it. When we got started to try to save School 16 and got the board to pass a resolution that it would be renovated and reopened, we then found out they were going to close School 10 and
Yeah.
shift the program to school building number 1 up in Cobb's Hill, and
Yeah. Appreciate you fighting that fight for us before we got there. So
yeah. So
we took over for a kind of a evaporated tutoring team that had been there before us. And when things are normal, whatever normal is now, we have about 24 people that are tutoring in there every week. And we've also worked out a thing with engineering firms where they can create teams of 4 people to act as the equivalent of a single tutor who shows up every Tuesday at 10 in the morning for 2 hours of tutoring. And we can get 4 people to do that. So they're only missing from their office 1 week a month, or one time a month instead of every week. So, and the consulting engineering firms and the architecture firms are really kind of liking that because it gets their people involved in a very meaningful way with the city without taking too much time away from their work. responsibilities.
Right.
If I can share an idea that we've started at School 17 with the tutoring
Yes.
that may allow you to increase your service is we've been piloting virtual tutoring. And so professionals don't have to leave their office. They tune in for 30 minutes twice a week, right from their desk, and Zoom in directly with a student in a breakout room. And the students have loved it, and we've been able to increase. We just piloted it during the remote instruction with only our second grade, just to test it out and see what the logistics were and what the interest would be. But we've been able to gain more volunteers that wouldn't be able to commit to the time or to the movement. And so just thinking about ways that you might be able to think creatively and getting started now and starting to build interest.
Appreciate you bringing that up, because actually we're a couple, 3-4 weeks away from experimenting with that ourselves. One of the kind of interesting positive things out of this whole pandemic is that virtually, and maybe that's the wrong word to use, essentially all the engineering and architecture professionals have been dragged kicking and screaming into the 21st century and are learning how to conduct meetings and get projects done online instead of in person. And so they kind of come with a recently acquired skill set that will make it even easier for them to be virtual tutors. And yes, indeed, we're hoping to do some serious recruiting with the consulting firms, because one of the arguments is they don't have to go down and brush the snow off their car and drive halfway across the city to get to their tutoring assignment. They just simply go into a designated conference room, which is set aside for that, and tutor right from the office. So everybody gets to eat their lunch and tutor at the same time. Thank you.
Yeah, Deborah Washington was doing that over at school 3. Of course, they've got middle school students there. It's nice to hear that it's working out for Katerina with 2nd, 3rd grade students, because that's something that we've been thinking about. That, gee, so many people, who might even be afraid to drive over to the school, even if COVID was not an issue right now, but they're getting old and crispy, and maybe doing it online would actually be something that would be a lot more within their abilities.
Well, for the foreseeable future, it's the only way we're going to get past this no visitors thing anyway. So we won't visit except electronically.
Yeah, and certainly teachers are really struggling with the simultaneous instruction. I don't know how many people are aware that they are concurrently teaching in person and online students throughout the entire day. And so what's happening is it's creating this sense of guilt inside the professional that you're ignoring what you can't split your attention enough, right? We're telling teachers that we've told forever to walk around the classroom and be close to kids, to sit in front of a laptop at the front of the room, because they have to also monitor the online learners. So what it does is it relieves some of that pressure when those online learners can be paired virtually for the teacher to work with the in-person kids. And then even if it's just for 30 minutes, and then you can pair the in-person kids with online tutors and work with the online kids. So anytime you can relieve any of that pressure, it's a win-win situation. So teachers that may have been hesitant in the past to release kids out to tutor for 30 minutes, they're going to miss core instruction, et cetera, are actually more interested in this tutoring opportunity because it relieves some of the pressure on the entire class.
Well, we're in the process of soliciting volunteer teachers who are willing to identify a half a dozen kids to get back into the tutoring protocol. And so far I only have one teacher, but then it's only been 2 weeks. since everybody came back. And oh, by the way, it looks like something right around 50% of the student body at Cooper is buying into and coming back for the 2 days a week in person. So we're pleased that how quickly that number jumped from a third to a half.
Great. How did you have to get the tutors you've got working for you, Katerina? Did Ricky Frazier have to declare them safe tutors?
So we have a faith-based partnership with Celebration of Life Communities. And typically we coordinate about 75 in-person readers through a program called Help Me Read. So it was about converting that. We also, they raised funds to purchase for some, you're working with professionals, so most have access to the electronics. What they did is they raised funds to purchase some tablets for the volunteers to be able to participate in the tutoring. Yeah, and the clearance is a little different because there's no in-person element. So it's been a little bit, and it's easier to monitor, physically monitor the breakout room with the tutors as well. So we haven't had any issues with that.
Are the meetings recorded or?
No, they're not.
Okay. All righty. Well,
Katerina, would I be able to intrude on your life and have some people at Cooper reach out to you to sort of, no pun intended, tutor them on how you're able to make this thing work?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to connect them with my second grade team that have been the guinea pigs in helping us to figure it out. And
Sure.
Certainly happy to share lessons learned and share some of the challenges we're still working through.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
okay. Is there anything else anybody wanted to bring up at this meeting? No? Okay, we've got 6:52 and the next meeting that some of us were going to be at is starting to knock at the door. So we have to move on, and I look forward to seeing you all again at our next meeting. We'll have on the third Thursday, there is a Southwest Common Council meeting, which I know I'd like to see Tiffany join us at that, and all of you are always welcome to any of those meetings, but we're trying to get the neighborhood structures built back up because we went through a period where things were kind of falling apart there. But great. Well, it's a real pleasure seeing all of you at these meetings. If you don't have anything else to bring up, we'll send out the notes, and you can share them with whomever. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.